Okay, so the thrust of this particular Mishnah slash Brisa is Rabbi Meir teaching us what the benefits are of learning Torah Lishma, learning Torah for its sake, learning Torah for the sake of dedication to Hashem rather than any personal vested or ulterior motives. So we went through a whole lot of things. He tells us that the person will merit many, many things. And not only that, but the whole world is suitable for such a person. Then we went through all the various steps along the way until last week. We pretty much ended off by saying, that one of the things that happens to a person who learns Torah for the right reasons is that the secrets of Torah are revealed to them. And we spoke about the fact that there's certain elements of Torah that are beyond us. It doesn't matter who we are. It doesn't matter how much we learn. It doesn't matter how intellectual, how dedicated, how pious we are. There's certain things that are, by definition, beyond the scope of intellect. Not just human intellect, but intellect altogether. So megalim, those are the things that a person has revealed to them when they learn Torah Lishma. So that's what we got up to last week, and what we were meant to do is go directly into the next line, because the next line is very related to that particular point. Because the next thing he tells us is, Vanasa, this person becomes Kamayan Amizgaber, like a powerful spring, Uchenohar She'enoi Poisek, and like a river that never ceases flowing. So what's the difference between a spring and a river? Because obviously he's making that distinction over here, right? There's the Mayan Amiskaber, there's this great, powerful spring, and Nohar Sheina Poisek, and a river that doesn't cease flowing. So let's think about it for a second. What's the difference between a spring and a river?
Underground.
So a spring is water that comes from underground, yes? What else?
Shoots up.
Yeah, okay, so it's this movement, yes, this upward movement. What else?
Getting stronger and stronger.
So misgaber means that it's something which consistently gets stronger. Now, is that something that you would typically associate with a spring? No. You don't. A river, you would use the expression, you could say a raging river or the rapids. That's normally where you would associate misgaber as something that indicates a lot of power and a lot of strength. That's the thing. The thing about a mayan, about a spring, is it's the purest water you can get. So that's why you'll get these bottled waters, and they all say bottled at source because they want to give the implication about how pure the water is. Maybe they should be a little bit more transparent about what source they're referring to when they say bottled at source. So if you go hiking in the mountains, for example, and you come across a natural spring, it's the most incredible experience because it tastes completely different, it's very refreshing, and it's sweet. There's an association of some element of sweetness with a mayan, with spring water. Now that's not the case in a river. River water is not clean. The minute you're downstream, do not expect clean water. It might still be cleaner than if it was collected in a dam. Depends where you are along the river system. But the fact is, even if it's clear of impurities, it's still churning up the sand as it goes. Very often you look at a river from a distance and the river itself doesn't look like water. It looks brown. So that you don't have that same cleanliness and clarity in the river as you have in the spring.
This morning there was a fact of the day. 200,000 people died from the freshwater snails, which is more than...
Okay, so there you go. So there's impurities. There's impurities in river water, which you don't necessarily have in spring water. So if you're looking at a mayan, what you're anticipating is purity. And if you're looking at a river, what you're anticipating is strength. So here you've got this almost the opposite way around. Mayan Amizgaber, you have a spring that gets strong and a river that doesn't cease flowing. It's the opposite of what you would expect. You know, a spring is typically something that's constantly bubbling, whereas certain rivers dry up at certain times of the year. So what's it illustrating to us over here? Mayan Amizgaber and Noar Sheina Poisek. So the advantage of the spring is its clarity, and the advantage of the river is its strength. And so that strength. And so that's what he is telling us over here. The person who learns Torah for the right reasons has the unique mix of both. Because very often what you have is you have people who have a tremendous amount of clarity. The things that they teach are very pure, but they don't necessarily have that constant flow, because it's unusual. It's unusual to have an ongoing flow of ideas that are so pristine. Here you've got somebody, because they are learning Torah Lishma, therefore they've got both values. They've got a constant flow of teachings and insights and wisdom, and all of it keeps that absolute clarity, that absolute pristine nature. Now, of course, we've got to understand how and why that is, which we'll do. So that's the first thing that we notice about this mixture of the spring and the river together. The Maharal says that one of the things about a Nahar She'eino Poisek, a river that doesn't stop flowing, is this. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody and they make a statement? This is what Judaism believes, or this is what the halacha is in this particular case. And you may ask them the question, why? Why is that the case? Now, it's at that point exactly that you get to test how well a person knows the subject. Because if their response is, because, that's how it is, or as Fiddler on the Roof says, tradition, then you understand that this person doesn't really know the subject matter that well, and so effectively what they're doing is they're just shutting down the questioning process because they don't want you to expose them. Then you'll get somebody who, and we've all done this, right? Person comes over, somebody attends a religious function, possibly they come from a secular background, so they ask us, why do we do this? How did we do an unveiling last week? After the unveiling, somebody comes over, why do we put a stone on the grave? So, why do we put a stone on the grave?
To be buried person.
It's a marker. Because in the old days, they didn't have the big fancy masons that we have today who come along and do a beautiful marble work or whatever the case is. So when you visited a grave, you made sure to put stones again to mark off where the grave was. That's the reason. Says the Maharal, the Nahar She'eino Poisek means that this is a person who doesn't stop with a single reason for why we do a particular thing or for why Judaism believes a particular thing. Einoi Poisek. They give one explanation, then they give a deeper explanation, then they offer a deeper explanation, and it doesn't stop. They can take us layer after layer after layer of experience of coming to appreciate what we believe, why we do certain things.
And so which is the truth?
All are the truth. It's layers. It's not different views. It's layers of depth of explanation. So as one delves deeper, so one gets further and further and further information or perspective or depth. It's not that we're offering a whole different, could be this or could be that. People love doing that. The rabbis have all the different opinions. No, that's not how it works. It's layers of depth. So Nahar She'eino Poisek, this is an individual who's able to give us more insight and deeper insight on a consistent, ongoing basis. And all of that is like the Mayon, it has that clarity that when the person teaches it to us, we realize they're not just making this up, or they didn't just fudge together two different ideas, but it's clear. This is obviously what the Torah says. So now we're going to ask ourselves the question, how? How does a person get to be able to do that? To consistently have that clarity right throughout, to always teach further and further, deeper and deeper. How is that possible? And in order to understand that, this links back to the story about the secrets of the Torah, because that's what we said last time, that they meganin lo razei Torah, they reveal to this individual the secrets of Torah. What are the secrets of Torah? What exactly are these secrets? Who's keeping them? And is it some kind of power play? Like, we'll keep the secrets of the Torah so that everybody else remains ignorant. What are the secrets of the Torah? It's exactly like people who say, I want to learn Kabbalah. What do they really mean when they say that? What do they really mean? They have no clue what Kabbalah is.
Exactly.
All they're thinking is when they say, I want to learn Kabbalah, is they're basically saying, I'm pretty sure that somewhere within the great infinite wisdom of Judaism, there must be the solution to my problems. So give it to me in some kind of mystical, psychobabble doublespeak, and then I think I'm learning Kabbalah, and I think that I'm a mystic, and I'll wear red string and drink holy water, and everything's going to be fine. So, and what they're actually getting is nothing. Because the secrets of the Torah are just that. Secrets. In other words, if they're wholesale available for anybody who pays $36 per session, they're no longer secrets. That's called commercialized wisdom. That's not, what does a secret mean? So here's an example, right? For example, you tell somebody, okay, you want to learn Kabbalah? Let's do this. So we're going to put, which book should we pull out to start our lessons of Kabbalah? The Zohar. Okay, there we're going to go. We're going to bring the Zohar, right? You know, remember there was a time, it's not so, thank God it hasn't happened for a while, but remember there was a time they were going around and they were selling the Zohar sets? Remember, everybody had Zohar sets? Because it was supposed to be a segula, it was a segula for the people selling them, but it was supposed to be the segula that if you have the set, this particular set, you can't have a different set of Zohar, which is normally maybe 3 volumes, you've got to have this 24 volume version of the Zohar, and then it's going to bring bracha to your house. So as people have emigrated, so we've got more and more Zohar sets that keep arriving at shul. You know, people are not taking it with them. So now we have a whole lot of these Zohar sets. Okay, so we're going to pull out one of the Zohar sets, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to read the Zohar. What do you think it's going to say? The following is the recipe for how to make your own personal golem. What do you think is in there? So you open up the Zohar, and what does it do? It takes the pasuk, the verse, out of the parasha in exactly the same way as the Medrash does, in exactly the same way as the Gemara might do, quotes the pasuk, and then has a whole conversation about the pasuk. Many times these conversations appear outwardly to be actually fairly straightforward. It's a story, it's a parable. You know why? Because that's how good the coding of the secret is. That you could look at it straight in its face and you would have absolutely no idea what is buried inside that information. Which is why, if you want to learn Kabbalah, you don't have to go to the Zohar to start. You could go to Bereshis, Bara Elokim, because it's the same thing. It's also going to be a secret. Meaning to say, the secret of Torah is not, I need to find further information that I haven't yet learned. So if I go to a mystic sitting on top of a hill, maybe he'll tell me these secrets. The secrets of the Torah means the part of the Torah that is beyond human comprehension. That's what it means, the secrets of the Torah. Right? Not the secrets of the Torah are the parts that the rabbis are keeping under wraps because they don't want some kind of a spiritual revolution. These are the parts of the Torah that are secret, not because you haven't learned them, not because I haven't learned them, because they cannot be learned. Because they are beyond human comprehension. So Megalen Loi Razei Torah, when that secret is revealed to an individual who is of the caliber, who has shown their dedication, who has learned Torah for its sake, and therefore they now deserve to have access to the infinite element of Torah, to the super rational element of Torah. So that person is now plugging into the source of the Torah, as opposed to what we plug into, which is the manifestation of the Torah. Now that might sound a little bit abstract, so let's try and understand what that means. So if you look inside a Torah scroll, the other day we had a bar mitzvah at our shul. The child goes to a non-Jewish school. So all of his classmates came to the bar mitzvah, and 90% of them are non-Jewish. So I told one of the Jewish friends that when we laning the Torah, he's welcome to bring the kids to peek over and see what a Torah looks like inside, right? They've never seen a Torah in their lives. So let them have a look, let them see what a Torah looks like, and then we can explain to them, what it is and what it does. So imagine a person who's never seen a Torah before, and they look into the text and they say, how do you read this thing? There's no punctuation. And very often there are not paragraph breaks. There's some parashas where there's no break in the whole parasha. How do you read this thing? And I've got news for you. There's no vowels, so certain words look identical. How do you know which one to read? Not only that, the fact that we have a Sefer Torah which actually splits the words into words is because we have a tradition how we're supposed to read the Torah. But actually in the original, there's no division of words either. It's just letters. So when you're reading the manifestation of the Torah, that means that the information has now become this message. This particular message, using these words with these sentence breaks and these paragraph breaks. And we have a tradition how that works. And if we don't get that tradition right, we could completely wreck the message of the Torah multiple times. Okay? There are dozens of examples of this, by the way, illustrating, of course, that you have to have an oral Torah, which is not our conversation right now. So what we're accessing is the manifestation of the Torah, not the source of the Torah. Now that might still sound abstract, so let's take it from a different angle. So you have a conversation with somebody. Now, it actually makes no difference who this person is and what level of relationship you have with them. When you have a conversation with somebody, what are you getting from them? You're getting what they're sharing. So let's say the two people are having a conversation. You know the difference between a couple who's newly engaged and a couple who's been married for 40 years? Know the difference? Couple is newly engaged and gets so excited. Oh, we're so aligned with each other. We just get each other. It's amazing. I start saying something and she knows exactly what I mean to say. What does that look like? Doesn't even have to be 40 years. 20 years later, what does that look like? She never lets me finish a sentence. Because what happens is, you think you know what the next person intends. You know what they're going to say. That you do, because you've been in this relationship for long enough. You actually know what they're going to say. But just because you know what somebody's going to say doesn't mean that you've connected to the source of why they're saying it or what's going through the mind at that particular point in time. Because it's impossible at any given time, no matter how close we are to somebody else, to be them. It's not possible. Which means we can never know them as they know them, which means we could never know their experience as they have their experience, which means that we could never judge them, and it means we could never decide for them. So the only way that we can know what's really going on inside somebody else's world is how? If they reveal it to us. If they reveal it to us. And of course then we have to be blank canvas to be able to hear it without judgment and without jumping to conclusions and without projecting ourselves onto them. That's between two human beings. Then it's certainly magnified exponentially with regards to Hashem and us. So we open up whatever it is, a Gemara, a Chumash, a Shulchan Aruch, a Midrash, whatever it is. We read it and we say, oh, I know what Hashem is saying over here. No, we don't. We don't know what Hashem is saying over here. We know what we're understanding from what Hashem is saying over here. So, for example, anybody who's a little bit sensitive, if they're learning a piece of Torah and they reach a point where something doesn't really work for them, doesn't really gel with them, so if a person's a little bit sensitive, they would never say, this doesn't make sense. They would say, I don't understand this. And there's a very big difference. So, a person who is learning and experiencing Torah without connecting to the actual original source is very much like a person who's having a conversation, finishing the other person's sentences. Which means at the end of the day, we never really get their message. And if we never really get their message, when we go to the next person and they say, what did they say? We'll have what we call broken telephone. Right? So that's exactly what he's telling us over here. To be in a position where the flow of information and wisdom that this individual is able to share, the innovation, the proofs, the multiple layers, can only happen when that person is plugged into the source of the Torah as opposed to the human experience of the Torah. Because human experiences are always going to be finite. And as long as we're locked into our own brains, we could be the smartest people on the planet, but it cannot be einoi poisek. It cannot be without end. Because the human mind has its limits. Whether those limits are capacity or whether those limits are perspective. And you'll often see this with people. We feed information through our particular lens and we keep reinterpreting as much information as people give us back into our lens. Whereas the person who's learning Torah Lishma has no lens. It's not about me. I never learned this Torah for my own sake in the first place. I was learning it in order to be dedicated to Hashem. I opened myself up to Hashem. That is a person who can have the source revealed to them. And the source is infinite. Therefore, the Torah that flows through this person is infinite. And maybe a great example of that would be Halacha LaMoshe Misinai. We have certain information that was transmitted by Hashem through Moshe to the Jewish people, and it creates infinite Torah study that follows from that information. Whereas the rest of us, if we had to put out some kind of a Torah thought, well, it would have a certain appeal to a certain group of people, and beyond that it would probably not get very far. So that's Nahar She'inoi Poisek, and Maya and Misgaber are completely linked. And Maya, the definition of a spring is, it's a source of water. It's a natural source of water. Whereas a river is from the source. It's what has developed and what has grown and what has, meandered and shared and irrigated. And that's why, generally speaking, we actually refer to Bina as a river. because Bina is very, developed and broadens out, whereas Chokhmah is more like a spring. It's that initial insight. So the person who's learning Torah for its sake is much more plugged into the original insight and sees that original insight in an unchanging way right throughout every aspect of what they're learning and teaching, which allows them then to keep teaching further and deeper and greater consistently, because they're plugged into an infinite source. Now, if you've read everything up until this point, this is somebody who is beloved to Hashem, beloved to people, brings simcha to Hashem. This is somebody who has royalty, who has authority. This is an individual who is a chassid and a tzaddik and all these wonderful accolades. They are gushing Torah. The secrets of Torah have been revealed to them. You could think, you know what? At some point this person's going to look around at the rest of the community and see, well, not everybody's like me. And they might actually turn out to feel a little bit smug, a little bit self-important. Look what I've achieved. So therefore, Rabbi Meir says the next thing that happens is vohivet tzonua. The next natural consequence of the fact that the person is plugged into the source and is learning Torah for its sake is that the person becomes modest. Tzonua. Tzonua actually comes from the word to hide, that which is hidden away. And it's quite beautiful because the Medrash Shmuel tells us that Torah is fundamentally hidden. The Gemara in Shabbos tells us this when Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to Mount Sinai. So you know the story, right? There's this intruder alert. And all the angels go crazy and they say, why is there a human being in the space that is reserved for spiritual beings? And Hashem tells them he's come to get the Torah. And the angels say, what? Your hidden treasure. That's how they refer to the Torah. Your hidden treasure. The Torah is by nature hidden. By nature, not modest, hidden. It's hidden away from us. We've just spent some time talking about this, that even when we learn the Torah, the true depth of the Torah remains hidden from us. Whatever it is that we're learning, we're kind of scratching the surface. So the bulk of the Torah, the truth of the Torah, the source of the Torah is hidden from us. Therefore, if a person is learning the real essence of the Torah, the natural effect is it causes that person to become tzonua, to become an individual, not like in any other discipline. In any other academic discipline, the more accomplished a person is, the bigger deal they are. I was talking to somebody just the other day about their experience with doctors. And they were talking about a particular doctor we both happened to use for one of our kids. And the relief that we had that this particular doctor no longer practices, and the person who's taken over the practice is actually much more down to earth, because that person was very, I'm the expert and I know, and everybody's just got to conform. And unfortunately, that is often what happens in many academic disciplines, is that the person who is the top of the pile is very conscious of the fact that they're top of the pile, and they are dismissive of other people. Here we've got the exact opposite. Here's the individual who is at that level that Hashem is willing to reveal the secrets of the Torah to this person, to entrust it with this person, and yet what is the natural response? Hovet tzanua. This person actually recedes from the public eye and does not look to claim any sense of accomplishment or any sense of special yichus, and they are not just modest, but they might even become hidden from society, which is a fascinating thought.
Even in last week's parasha, Moshe went to Betzalel and told him that they should make the vessels first, and
Right.
Betzalel said no, we should actually make the structure first.
Right.
And Moshe didn't say, well, I know better because I'm the source. So I think show
Yes, exactly. Great example. Okay, great example. So there's Moshe, who is clearly the source. Betzalel, who's actually quite a newbie by the time he appears in the parasha. We don't know him from anywhere. And Betzalel makes a comment and Moshe defers, which is exactly the point. Because when you're dealing with truth, then you're dealing with truth. It has nothing to do with the individual. Now, we have an expression that we use in Judaism where we talk about something called a tzaddik nistar, the hidden tzaddik, right? And everybody thinks that who's a hidden tzaddik? Some weirdo who hangs out in shul. That's probably the hidden tzaddik, right? And why? Because they're doing such a good job of hiding how righteous they are, right? But the truth of the matter is that a hidden tzaddik is an individual who we all know to be a tzaddik, but we don't begin to comprehend what kind of greatness they really have because it's beyond us. hidden does not mean they're hiding as much as it is fundamentally hidden. Just as you look at a verse in the Torah and the true meaning is hidden, not because Hashem is hiding it, but because of our inability to understand something infinite. So the tzaddik, this is what we're learning of here. Hoivet tzanua, this person becomes tzanua, not in the sense that they walk around, shh, no, not me, don't pay a fine. That's not being a hidden tzaddik. That's not being modest. That's not what it's described over here. Tzonua means that they do such a spectacular job of allowing us to know their greatness without having any clue of their real greatness. In other words, they're not pretending to be something else. That's just dishonest. Moshe, can you imagine Moshe Rabbeinu comes down Mount Sinai and they're like, Moshe Rabbeinu said, but please, it wasn't me, the Luchos, I just found them on the mountain. Obviously that's not valuable. That's not considered spiritual growth. So Noah is that they do such a good job of hiding from view who they really are. That's Tzonua. And so effectively what we're going to see in a moment, we're going to unpack the other two, because there's three traits over here that Rabbi Meir defines will happen to the person who's learning Torah Lishma. But what's interesting about this is, if this is what happens to a person who learns Torah for its sake, you can extrapolate that any person who lacks these three traits, or a person who has the opposite of these three traits, it would obviously be a barrier to Torah. So Tzonua, the person who's extremely modest, that is very aligned with the secrets and the depth and the essence of Torah. Therefore, the implication is, somebody who is very self-interested, self-important, that would be a barrier to Torah. In fact, the Gemara tells us this in Soita. The Gemara tells us that if a person is arrogant, Hashem says, Ein ani v'hu yecholin ladur. That person and I cannot occupy the same space. Or as we say in modern terms, this town ain't big enough for the both of us. So that indicates clearly that if a person makes it all about themselves, they actually push Hashem out of the arena. And here's the individual who's tzanua, who's pretty much, they're not in the space. That indicates that they're connected to the essence. There's another way that this manifests as well, which is critically important. And that is, we used to have a teacher in yeshiva. He had a strong Russian Yiddish accent, and he used to love picking out English words that indicate how spiritually bereft the English language is. That was one of his things that he loved to do. So if a person in the course of a sentence would say, I think, I feel, whatever, he used to go like this. I. Right? Implying that when you talk about I, we don't hear the message because we're too blocked by hearing the ego. And what's beautiful about a person who's really plugged into Torah in a genuine way is you don't hear themselves in the message. It's not about words, it's just about themselves. And it's the subtlety that you can pick up. Some people get up to speak and you just hear that they are transparent and allow Hashem's message to flow through without drawing attention to themselves. Other people constantly, throwing in a little bit of a reminder and an anecdote, I did this, or I had this thought, or they may not even say it as blatantly as that, and you still get the feeling that, it's like nails on a chalkboard, when they're speaking, because you just want to hear the message and there's too much of them in the way. So tzonua does not necessarily mean that the person is a low-profile individual. They could be a high-profile individual without their own profile, which is really profound, and that's really what Torah is supposed to be about. The next thing, that is what happens to a person who's dedicated to Torah for the correct reasons, Torah Lishma, is that the person becomes Erech, what's the word? Erech Ruach. You ever heard that expression before? Erech Ruach. It's an interesting expression. What do we normally say? Erech Apayim. That's normally what we say. Erech Apayim. Now, ostensibly, it's pretty much saying the same thing, that it's an individual who is extremely patient. That's really what it implies. Again, implying that a person who is impatient, that is a barrier to Torah. Impatience is a barrier to Torah. I don't know what that means for the download generation. Because Torah is not a quick fix. It's not a quick experience. In Hasidus, in Chabad Hasidus, there are a number of discourses from the 5th Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab, where he describes how a person learns Torah, and he uses a beautiful Yiddish word. For those people who know, Yiddish has some of the most expressive words that, more so than many other languages. So he uses the mashal of what he calls Schwindeltreppe. Any idea what Schwindeltreppe is? Schwindeltreppe is a spiral staircase. Schwindeltreppe, right? Almost like swivel steps. A spiral staircase. What's the message of the spiral staircase? The message is that as you're walking, I don't know if anybody here has ever visited the Statue of Liberty. So I was a kid. It was my first time going to New York. I won a trip. I was very excited. I was an early teenager. And they told us we're going to the Statue of Liberty. Now, of course, every single person on the planet who has never been to the Statue of Liberty thinks that it must be the height of Everest. You arrive at the first thing that you arrive at is, this is so disappointing. The whole Gansa Statue of Liberty is nothing so big. Anyhow, then you're going, what's there to do over there? What's there to do? To go up. In the old days, you used to be able to go, I think you used to be able to go into the torch or whatever, but you go up to the crown where they have these windows. You can't see very much out of the windows. But to get there is this spiral staircase to go up. And because it's a very popular tourist attraction, so you take a long time. There's a lot of people on the spiral staircase. So that's where I had the first experience of this teaching of Schwindeltreppe, because if you're walking up at a pace, it's not such a big deal. But if you're walking slowly, so what happens is, 1 minute you're facing this angle. So now you can't see that whole section, right? And then you're facing this angle, you can't see that section. And basically the message is that learning Torah is you can see where you're meant to go, but the twists and turns along the way very often give you the impression that you're headed in a different direction, and you wonder, how will we ever arrive at the destination that we were intended to arrive at? So, for example, anybody who's ever learned Gemara will know this. You open up the Gemara, and everybody thinks, I don't know what they expect is going to happen when people open up a Gemara, but I think they pretty much imagine that all of the wisdom of Judaism is just going to be laid out in nice, neat, categorized terms. You open up the Gemara, and it starts off straightforward enough. It will quote some classical source, a Mishnah, and the Mishnah will be commenting on a particular area, usually of Jewish law, because that's pretty much what most Gemara is about. And then you think, okay, great, now we're going to explain this, right? And then the Gemara asks questions which lead to comments, which bring proofs that are then contested by people who bring counter-proofs against the original proofs, and then they get their proofs questioned, which means they have to bring other proofs, which usually come from other areas of Jewish law, which take you on a completely different conversation about something absolutely unrelated to the particular Gemara, which then leads the Gemara to say, while we're on that subject, let's explore 3 other things on the same topic, on which we then have questions and counter-questions and proofs and counter-proofs, and by the time you've turned 6 pages of the Gemara, you don't even remember what the first question was. So, erech ruach, if a person wants to learn Torah properly, they have to be incredibly patient, because the Torah is not quick fix. You don't snap your fingers and say, okay, it's Simchas Torah, thank you very much. We have now finished the 5 books of the Torah. What's next? We say, what's next? Go back to the beginning. That's why when we conclude an entire tractate of Gemara, what do we say? Hadran aloch. Hadran aloch, which means we'll come back to relearn this. That's how the Jewish people conclude a section of Torah. How does anybody else conclude? I've graduated. Throw my hat in the air, burn the textbooks. We say, Hadran aloch, the biggest celebration I have of completing this Gemara is that I know I'm coming back to start afresh and learn it all again as if I've never learned it before. Erech ruach, a person has to have this incredible ability to be patient in the learning of Torah, to appreciate that it's not necessarily something that you finish. In fact, it's really interesting. This past Shabbos, he said Chazak, right? So this past Shabbos, we concluded the 2nd book of the Chumash. How do we conclude the book of the Chumash? And by the way, it is undoubtedly the single most dramatic book out of the 24 books of the Tanakh. Is this book of Shmos. Think about it. The exile in Egypt, the slavery in Egypt. I mean, that's dramatic in itself. That could rival most books of the Torah. Then you've got the appearance of Moshe, the burning bush, the 10 plagues, the Exodus, the formation of the Jewish people at the time of the Exodus, the introduction of the principle of mitzvahs with the Rosh Chodesh. Then we go into the desert. There's the miraculous manna, the water from the well, the splitting of the sea, the war against Amalek, the very first person to convert to Judaism, Yisroi. You've got the giving of the Torah, which is the culmination of everything, the highest spiritual experience in history. You've got the Jews building a place for God on earth, which defies all the rules of metaphysics. At the end of this book of the Torah, you'd expect everybody to say, "Whew, that was a good one," right? How does the book of Shemos end? The very last few lines of the book of Shemos are all about that when Hashem's cloud will rise off the Mishkan, then the Jews have to go and move. In other words, the message is, now that you've finished this book, the message is, go and move. Don't sit back and say, Baruch Hashem, I finished the book. So that's Erech Ruach, is this capacity, not Erech HaPayim, not just to be, Erech HaPayim is very often the fact that a person is tolerant. Right? Hashem is Erech HaPayim, is tolerant of our sins. This is Erech Ruach, this is something else. This is a person having this very strong, resilient perspective to say, it's going to take time to get through the layers. And even then, I know that I'm never going to exhaust the layers. So I shouldn't become frenzied. I shouldn't become disappointed. I shouldn't feel that I'm some kind of a loser because I'm not getting anywhere. Erech Ruach, you've got to take that in your stride and understand that this is what Judaism is. And of course, the same applies to teaching. Right? Erech Ruach with teaching as well. The person who is connected to the source of Torah, who's learning Torah for its sake, will never run out of patience with the people that they're teaching. Okay, so it's two sides of the coin.
So, may I say something? I was just going to say it's exact opposite of society without Torah. Instant gratification is just the complete opposite.
Correct. So we're living in a world which is the opposite. Because remember, again, these are the traits that indicate Torah, which implies that the opposite is a barrier to Torah. So that frenzy, I need to know everything and I need to know it now, that's an obstacle to learning Torah. And then the last one that he says on this list is Umoichel al el boinoi, that this is somebody who is willing and is capable of truly forgiving those who insult them. The Gemara elsewhere says that that's actually the sign of a tzaddik, or oy havay Hashem, those who love Hashem, oy havav ketzeis Hashem eshbig vurasoy, that those who love Hashem have the power of the sun in its greatest strength. And it says, who are these people? They're the ne'elavim ve'enon olvim, the people who are willing to accept insult without giving insult in response. And bear in mind, of course, that if a person is plugged into the essence of the Torah, they don't have that same level of ego and that fragility of ego that the rest of humanity has, where, you offended me, especially in today's world, where it's almost like you feel you walk around today saying, how may I offend you today? Said this, I was so hurt, I was so offended, you didn't respect my particular sensitivities. And here we're saying it's exact opposite. The Torah puts a person in a place where there's no such thing. I don't get offended. It's not about me. I don't get insulted. And then he wraps it all up with these words. And it makes a person great and elevates a person over all ma'asim, over all actions. So the Medrash Shmuel actually says that what it's teaching us is a person who learns Torah lishma for its sake is far superior to the person who's learning Torah for the sake of ma'asim, this is fascinating because there's a very interesting debate in the Gemara Kiddushin about which is greater. Is Torah learning greater or is action greater? And eventually the Gemara comes to the most paradoxical and typically Jewish conclusion, which is Talmud Gadol. The greatest thing is to learn Torah. Hamevi lidei ma'aseh, because that's going to get you to actually do what you're supposed to do. So there's the paradox. Learning is greater because it allows you to do. But according to Medrash Shmuel, learning Torah lishma is even greater than learning Torah to be able to know what to do. So even though it is an ideal form of learning Torah, to know how I should behave as a Jewish person, this is even greater. Al kol ha'ma'asim, it elevates a person above all actions. Various of the other commentaries point out that gadaltoi umeroimamtoi, the word goidel, gadol, great, is very typically associated with material things, whereas merumam, which means to be elevated, can apply and probably is more appropriate to apply to spiritual things. So the message over here is that the person is made to be great within the context of the physical world, amongst their peers, amongst human beings, Meroimantoi means to elevate a person even above spiritual beings, because we do know that when we do what Hashem wants, and particularly when we learn Torah at this level, which is to plug into the source of Torah, needless to say, we achieve a level that is even higher than the angels. Because angels don't have this ability, right? Angels can't learn Torah. But let's dig into this a little deeper. And you may remember a Mishnah that we learned quite a while back. I think it was Rabbi Yaakov, if I'm not Rabbi Yaakov, who said it in the 4th Perek. That what happens if a person is traveling on the road and they're learning Torah and they pause their learning and they say, wow, look at that beautiful landscape. Remember that? What does he say? Harizeh mischayev benafshoy. That is a capital offense. Now you've got to ask yourself the question, hang on. Let's say that the person was not learning Torah. Let's just use a completely different scenario. Let's say that a person went on a hike and they're standing in the middle of whichever mountain range it might be, the Drakensberg, let's just say, and looking out over this beautiful scene, the rolling mountains, not at this time of the year, but at a different time of the year, maybe snow-capped, and the beautiful lakes, and the greenery, and you watch the birds flying by and the blue sky, and what do you say? Mo rabu ma'asecha Hashem. How amazing and how complex is your creation, Hashem. Is that a good thing to do? Absolutely. 100%. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to acknowledge Hashem's creation. So why then, if a person is busy learning Torah and they pause from their Torah learning to acknowledge Hashem? They're not pausing to, take a phone call. Not that would ever happen. So, or to check a WhatsApp. They're pausing from their learning in order to praise Hashem. How could that be mischayev b'nafshay? How could it be something which is so dramatically bad? And so the key to understanding that comes back to appreciating the fact that Hashem is not a creator. Hashem creates. Now, what's the difference? The difference is this. I mean, it sounds like semantics, right? Well, if you create, surely you're a creator. Yes, technically he is a creator. But let's put it this way. Have you ever thought, if you ever sit in the traffic and there are a lot of cars around you, have you ever thought that, maybe if a bird is flying over, it looks down at us and just thinks, all of them are the same. They're all moving in the same direction, at the same pace. Have you ever thought about this? And the truth of the matter is, when we sit behind the wheel, everybody around us is a driver. That's it. We don't stop for a second to think, they're also a mother. Maybe that person is a doctor. Maybe this morning they saved somebody's life. Maybe that person is an incredible author and they're about to put out this book that's going to change who knows how many people's lives. We don't think about that, right? We just think drivers. So imagine if you had to drive behind somebody. This has happened to people for sure. Drive behind somebody, they don't drive so well, you get impatient with them, you kind of rush them along, then you both arrive at the same destination. And you get out. And it turns out that not only have you arrived at the same destination, let's really dramatize the story, you arrived at this destination in order to hear a talk. And you're one of the organizers who's been asked to introduce the speaker. Turns out now it was the driver who was in front of you, who was driving at a snail's pace when you were rushing because you had to get to the store because you were about to introduce the speaker. So you can imagine now your only real interaction with this person up until this point is that they're a driver. That's the only interaction. I mean, now you know who they are, right? So you imagine you get up and you introduce them to the audience and say, ladies and gentlemen, so-and-so, the driver on the M1. Is it factual? Yes, but it's an insult. Is it factual that Hashem creates everything? Yes. But if that's what we define Hashem as, it's an insult. Because the amount of effort it takes for Hashem to create everything is, the Torah tells us very clearly, words. And compared to what Hashem is and can achieve, it's a drop in the ocean. So kol ha'ma'asim, everything that Hashem made, whether it be in the physical universe, which is way beyond anything that we have scratched the surface of with all of our technological advancements, and Kal v'chomer, much more so in the spiritual multiverse, which, as they say, one angel has the sophistication and power of 1/3 of the whole physical universe. One angel. And then there's higher angels, where one angel is the sophistication and power of 3 times the universe. And then the prophets tell us clearly that each battalion of angels is 10,000 angels. Think about that for a second. And then, Hayesh Mispar Gedudav, there is no number to those battalions. So, and all of that is also, it's way beyond anything that the human mind can compute. And all that is ma'asim, what Hashem made. Whereas when a person learns Torah for the real reasons, and therefore the person links into the essence of Torah, where the essence of Torah is really an expression of Hashem's essence, that lifts the person al kol ha'maisim, that person is now fundamentally beyond everything in the physical and in all of the spiritual realities. And therefore go right back to the beginning of the Mishnah. What did he say? Kol ha'olam kedai hu loi. The entire creation was worthwhile for a person like this who transcends creation.
To come back to the story